Hi everyone! In today's video, I will be going over the Unit 3B test review. This review is rather short. There's only 4 problems total. The first 2 are problems of this type where you have the 3 equations with 3 variables and we need to solve for x, y, and z. The steps that I am going to follow are in this box right here if you need to reference that at any point in time, but that is the process I'm going to use in this video. Very first thing we need to do is we need to label these E1, E2, and E3. Now we can do the first step. First step, we take E1 and E3, and we use them to make E4. We're going to use elimination here. E1 is negative 5x plus 3y plus 6z equals 4. And E3 is negative 4x plus 2y plus z equals 13. And at this point, I am able to choose which letter I want to get rid of. And again, you can go any way you want on this one. But the easiest one to get rid of in this problem is going to be z, because I need the same number but different signs. And with the z's, one of those z's just has a 1 in front of it, so it's going to be very easy to change into anything I want. So for that reason, I'm going to use the bottom equation, and I'm going to change this into a negative 6z. So I want negative 6z to cancel out with the positive 6z. So all I need to do is multiply this bottom equation by negative 6. So I'm going to multiply through by negative 6. Multiply everything inside of there by that. I'm going to rewrite both of these. We have negative 5x plus 3y plus 6z equals 4. On the bottom, negative 6 times negative 4, that's positive 24x. Negative 6 times 2y, that's negative 12y. Negative 6 times 1z, that's negative 6z. Negative 6 times 13, that is negative 78. And now I can do the elimination. So first off, these 6z's are going to cancel. I've got a positive 6 and a negative 6, so I'll go ahead and do that. Negative 5x plus 24x, this is positive 19x. 3y minus 12y, that's negative 9y, equals 4 minus 78, that's negative 74. This is E4. Let's do that again. Step 2. This time we are using E2 and E3 to make E5. And I'll go ahead and make myself a note here. When you do the second one, you have to eliminate the same variable that you did the first time. So earlier I got rid of z, so I need to make myself a note here. Get rid of z. So we have E2. That's negative 3x plus y plus 5z equals negative 5. E3, that's negative 4x plus 2y plus z equals 13. Thankfully, this is going to be very easy to get rid of z again, because we still have that 1z as an option, and this is very easy to change to anything we want to. So I have 5z and 1z. So to make those cancel, I want negative 5z. So I'm going to multiply through by negative 5 to turn that into a negative 5z. So I'm going to rewrite the top equation first. Negative 3x plus y plus 5z equals negative 5. And then on the bottom, negative 5 times negative 4x, that's positive 20x. Negative 5 times 2y, that's negative 10y. Negative 5 times 1z, that's negative 5z. Negative 5 times 13, that is negative 65. And now I do elimination. 5z and negative 5z, those are going to cancel, so I'll go ahead and do that. Negative 3x plus 20x, that's 17x. This is 1y minus 10y, that's negative 9y, equals negative 5 minus 65, this is negative 70. This is E5. Next step, step 3. We use E4 and E5, and we do elimination with those. E4, 19x minus 9y equals negative 74. E5, 17x minus 9y equals negative 70. So this time we have a choice again. We can either get rid of x or y. Hopefully you agree with me that y is going to be very easy to get rid of because the numbers are already the same. I just need to change one of these signs, and it's more convenient to change the top equation and write the new one underneath. So that's what I'm going to do. So here I want positive 9y. So I need to multiply through by a negative 1 to change the sign. Fully distribute. And then I'm going to write the new equation underneath here. Negative 1 times 19, that's negative 19x. Negative 1 times negative 9, that's positive 9y. Negative 1 times negative 74, that is positive 74. Now I can do elimination. Negative 9y plus 9y, those cancel. 17x minus 19x, that's negative 2x, equals negative 70 plus 74, that is positive 4. And now we solve for x. Divide by negative 2 on both sides. X equals 4 divided by negative 2 is negative 2. I now have my first letter. Step 4. Pick E4 or E5 from the previous step, and we're going to use one of those equations with x equals negative 2 to solve for y. These are both nice equations. For me, I like E5 just a tad better, so I'm going to use E5 and the fact that x is negative 2 to solve this. So we have E5, which is 17x minus 9y equals negative 70. 17 times x, which is negative 2, minus 9y equals negative 70. 17 times negative 2, this is negative 34, minus 9y equals negative 70. 2 steps to solve. We'll add this 34 over here, over on both sides actually. Cancel. Negative 9y equals negative 70 plus 34 is negative 36. Divide by negative 9 on both sides. Y equals negative 36 over negative 9 is positive 4. Lastly, we have step 5. Step 5, we pick one of the original 3 equations, E1, E2, or E3, and we also use the information that we have found, which is x and y. We're going to plug those in, and we're finally going to find z. For me, E3 looks the nicest. I mean, they're all nice equations, but something about E3 is just pulling me to it, so I'm going to use E3. And then I'm going to write down the fact that x is -2 and y is 4. Put all the information in one place. It's very helpful. So we have E3, which is -4x plus 2y plus z equals 13. -4 times x, which is -2, plus 2 times y, which is 4, plus z equals 13. -4 times -2, this is +8. Yes. Plus 2 times 4 is also 8. Plus z equals 13. Here we have 8 plus 8. They're on the same side, so we're just going to combine them as they are. 8 plus 8 is 16. Plus z equals 13. To get z by itself, we need to move that 16. This is +16, so we'll minus 16 on both sides. Z equals 13 minus 16 is -3. I now know all 3 of my letters and know what their values are. So lastly, we need to write our final answer. So remember, you have to write your answer as an ordered triple. It's like a point, but with 3 numbers instead of 2. And we need to put them in order, x, y, z. So x was -2, y was 4, and z was -3. And there you have it. Our final answer is -2, 4, -3. Backside. Same idea. This time the steps aren't at the top of the page, but they are on the front if you want to take a look at them while I'm doing this. And this will actually give us a lot more space to work with. Let's label E1, E2, and E3. Step 1, take E1 plus E3 to get E4. We're going to do this elimination. E1 is -6x minus 2y minus z equals -17. E3, -4x minus 6y minus 6z equals -20. This is the first step, so we have choice over which letter we get rid of. All 3 of them are perfectly doable. Y and z are going to be the easiest. For the y's, you can turn both of these into a 6. You can turn the 2 specifically into a 6. And then with z's, same thing. We need a 6 on top and bottom, and we just need to change the top number. I'm actually going to work with the z's on this problem. So for this, I want +6z. I have a -6z on bottom, so I do need to change the sign so that they're opposite signs. So I'm going to multiply by 6 to turn that into a 6. And then since I need to change this to a positive, I also need to multiply by a negative here to change that sign. So we're multiplying by -6 here. Distribute all the way through. And then I'm just going to write the new equation underneath. And I'm going to go ahead and note that this is a -1. All right, -6 times -6x. This is +36x. -6 times -2y, that's +12y. -6 times -1z, that's +6z. And -6 times -17, that is positive, I want to say 102. Let me check. Yes. Positive 102. And now we solve. First off, the z's cancel, so I'm going to go ahead and cancel those out. Negative 4x plus 36x, this is positive 32x. Negative 6y plus 12y, this is plus 6y, equals negative 20 plus 102. It's going to give us 82. Yes. This is equation 4, E4. Let's get E5. Step 2. E2 plus E3 equals E5. E2, 5x plus y minus 6z equals 19. E3, negative 4x minus 6y minus 6z equals negative 20. And just a reminder, I got rid of z the first time, so I need to do that again. Get rid of z so that I don't get rid of the wrong letter. Okay, just taking a look at these. I've got negative 6z and negative 6z. This is almost ready for elimination. Remember, they have to have opposite signs. Right now, these would not cancel. This would give me negative 12. So I just need to change the top from a negative 6 to a positive 6. So I just need to multiply through by negative 1. Multiply everything by the negative 1. And then this is a 1y here. So I'm just going to put that underneath. Negative 1 times 5x, that's negative 5x. Negative 1 times 1y, that's negative 1y. Negative 1 times negative 6z, that's positive 6z. Negative 1 times 19, that's negative 19. Elimination. Negative 6z and positive 6z cancel. Negative 4x and negative 5x, that's negative 9x. Negative 6y minus 1y, that's negative 7y, equals negative 20 minus 19, this is negative 39. This is E5. Step 3, we're going to do elimination one more time with E4 and E5. E4, 32x plus 6y equals 82. E5, negative 9x minus 7y equals negative 39. So now we have a choice, x or y, of which letter we want to get rid of. And unfortunately, I can't turn this 9 into a 32, so if I work with the x numbers, which you can, I'm going to be working with some really big numbers. The y's are going to be a bit easier to simplify, so let's do that. Now, I can't turn 6 into 7 or vice versa, so I'm going to have to multiply them by each other. And keep in mind, these are already opposite signs, so do not multiply either of these equations by a negative. I just need the numbers. So we're going to multiply the top equation by 7 and the bottom equation by 6. Again, signs are fine. We don't need any negatives. So what's going to happen is this is going to give me positive 42y. And this is going to give me negative 42y. And as you see, those will cancel if I multiply correctly. Okay. Let's distribute. Seven times 32 x, that is 224x. 7 times 6y, that's 42y. And 7 times 82, that is 574. Bottom equation, 6 times negative 9, that is negative 54x. 6 times negative 7y, that's negative 42y. And 6 times negative 39, negative 234. All right, 224 minus 54, that is 170x. The 42y's are going to cancel. I've got a positive and a negative. 574 minus 234, that is positive 340. Yes. And then lastly, solve for x. I just need to divide by 170 on both sides. X equals 340 divided by 170, 2. Reminder, once we find the first number, the first letter, the rest of the problem unfolds very easily and quickly. Okay. So that was step 3. Now we're going to do step 4 over here. Step 4, we pick E4 or E5. Choice is ours. And also note that x is 2. We're going to plug in x and find y. Both of these equations are nice. Well, not really. I'm not a big fan of negatives, if you know me well. So for that reason, I'm going to go with E4. But if you don't mind negatives, E5 is nice because it has smaller numbers. So pros and cons here. E4, 32x plus 6y equals 82. 32 times x, which is 2, plus 6y equals 82. 32 times 2, that is 64, plus 6y equals 82. To get 6y by itself, I need to move the 64, so I'm going to minus 64 on both sides. (6y) equals 82 minus 64, that's positive 18. And then lastly, I divide by 6 on both sides. Y equals 18 over 6, that is 3. All right, we're basically done. We just need to find our last letter, which is Z. So we go back to one of the original 3 equations, E1, E2, or E3, and we're going to solve for Z. And I like E2. I like it has more positives than any other equation, so I'm going to go with that. So step 5. Going to use E2, and then I'm also writing down that I know x is 2 and y is 3. So we have E2, 5x plus y minus 6z equals 19. 5 times x, which is 2, plus y, which is 3, minus 6z equals 19. 5 times 2, that's 10, plus 3, minus 6z equals 19. 10 plus 3, those are on the same side and they're like terms, so I'm going to combine them as they are. 10 plus 3 is 13, minus 6z equals 19. Now we need to get the 6z by itself first. This is a positive 13, so I'm going to minus 13 on both sides. Negative 6z equals 19 minus 13 is positive 6. going to bring this up and over to finish the problem. Negative 6z equals 6. Lastly, just going to divide by negative 6 on both sides. Z equals 6 divided by negative 6 is negative 1. Last but not least, we need to write our final answer as a point, x, y, z. X is 2, y is 3, and z is negative 1. And there you have it. That's 2 problems. Let's do the word problems real quick. So here we have 2 word problems, number 3 and number 4. And they are of different types, so we'll go over that as we go. Number 3. A farmer rotates wheat, corn, and soybean crops on her farm. This is just a sentence to tell me what this problem is about, but it doesn't really offer much information. The farmer produces 293 bushels of produce and sells them for a total of $1,557. So we have a total here, we know that. And also, now that I've read the sentence, I know that 293 is actually a total as well. Wheat costs $8 for a bushel, corn costs $4 a bushel, soybeans cost $9 a bushel. If the farmer's crops yield 4.75 times more corn than wheat, how many bushels of each crop does the farmer produce? That's the question. And remember, when you read these, you have to figure out what do we not know about our variables. And it's usually how much they cost or how many there are. In this case, it asks how many. So this is where I put number of. We don't know how many. So let's first take a step back and just pick some variables. So we're talking about wheat, corn, and soybeans. So I'm going to go with W, C, and S. So W is for wheat, but remember you can't just put W equals wheat. That will not get you any credit. You have to specify what we don't know about it. And that's what the question is. How many bushels? So W is the number of bushels of wheat. I know that's a bit lengthy to write, my apologies. Reminder, you can also put how many bushels of wheat. I will take that as well. C, number of bushels of corn. And S, number of bushels of soybeans. That is 3 easy points to get on this test, so make sure you at the very least define the variables, even if you're not comfortable writing equations. Okay, 3 equations. So remember from the notes, there were 2 really big types of problems, if you will. The easier version is the 3 scenarios where they give you 3 different orders or 3 different purchases, and you just make 3 different equations out of it. That's not the case here. We have a bunch of information going on here. So this is the money, number of items, and comparison trio of equations. That's what's going on here. So if you don't know what you're doing, you can always start with just the totals. We've identified 2 totals here, 293 and 1557. This is money. I always like to start with money. That goes obviously in the money equation. So 1,557, and if you want to add the dollar sign, that's fine. It's not required. So we're dealing with money. And then the other total, that's the number of items, 293 bushels. And then remember, we always add our three variables together on the left side of these equations. So I have W plus C, leave some space in front of C, plus S, leave some space in front of S, and then copy that down in the equation below it. Okay, so I've used the two totals. From here, they tell me how much each item costs. They tell me the price of wheat, corn, and soybeans. So the cost, the price, goes into the money equation and only the money equation. So wheat is $8, so I have 8W. Corn is $4, so 4C. Soybeans are $9, so 9S. Number of items, you do not include their price because we don't care how much they cost in this equation. We just want to know how many we have, and that's what we're trying to figure out. So this equation is actually finished. The last equation, which is the one I know will give some students a bit of struggle. Some people are going to have a harder time with this than others, and that's okay, is the comparison equation. 4.75 times more corn than wheat. So I'm going to make a couple notes here. And by the way, like the labeling I'm doing and the notes I'm taking, you don't have to write that down. If you know what the answer is, go ahead and write it down. I'm going to read this again. 4.75 times more corn than wheat. We want more corn. So we give 4.75 to wheat, the smaller amount. That still doesn't make sense. Let me write the equation and let me explain it. So we start off with C equals and then W. This is a comparison between two things, so we're going to have one on each side of the equal sign. And since we want C to be bigger, we're going to put the number on W. Now, a lot of students think that putting the number on the W would make the W bigger, but think about it. If I take the amount of wheat I have and I multiply it by this number, that's going to tell me the amount of corn. So attaching a number to W makes the other letter bigger, not the W. W is whatever W is. But W times this, that tells me how much corn I have. So that's going to make this number bigger. So the bigger number is fine. It can stand on its own. The smaller number needs a little help. So you're going to attach that number to it. That's kind of how I see it. And we're done. These are our three equations. Number 4, 3 neighbors make a fruit salad for a summer picnic. Again, just some general info. Tell me what this is about. One person uses 3 pounds of strawberries, plus 5 pounds of grapes, plus 1 pound of melon at a cost of $20. That's a total. A second person uses 3 pounds of strawberries, plus 2 pounds of grapes, plus 2 pounds of melon at a cost of $21. That's a total. The last neighbor uses 4 pounds of strawberries, plus 3 pounds of grapes, plus 3 pounds of melon at a cost of $30, our last total. Question, how much does each fruit cost? So we're clearly looking for the cost of each fruit. So it says it clear as day what is missing. So let's first just pick our letters. This problem is about strawberries, grapes, and melon. So we're going to use S, G, and M. And we need to figure out the cost of these fruits. So, S is cost of strawberries. Not that it matters, but this is in pounds, so it's generally cost of a pound of strawberries. G, cost of grapes. And M, cost of melon. So again, this is all you have to do to get 3 points on this test. This is very easy work. Don't sweat the small stuff. All right, 3 equations. So hopefully you can very well tell that this is the 3 scenarios problem. We have 3 different purchases being made. We're told what one person bought and how much it cost them, and then another person, and then a third person. So, this is the 3 scenarios. Again, you don't have to write that down, but if it helps, it helps. So I'm just going to number these 1 through 3. Scenario number 1, scenario number 2, scenario number 3. So this second sentence here that starts with one person, that's going to be my first equation. One person uses 3 pounds of strawberries, so 3S, and it literally says plus 5 pounds of grapes, 5G, plus 1 pound of melon, 1M, and that is a total of $20. We're going to do that 2 more times. Next sentence is my second equation. A second person uses 3 pounds of strawberries, 3S, plus 2 pounds of grapes, 2G, plus 2 pounds of melon, at a cost of $21. The last neighbor, it's going to be my third equation, uses 4 pounds of strawberries, plus 3 pounds of grapes, 3G, plus 3 pounds of melon, at a cost of $30. And then how much does the fruit cost? That is the overall question. But we have filled out what we needed to for our equations here. So we are done with this problem. Lastly, at the bottom here, it says bonus solve number 3 or number 4. This is how it's going to appear on the test. It's going to give you the option to solve a word problem for some extra credit. Now, a couple things. If you're not done with the rest of the test, do not do the bonus. If you're done with the rest of the test, then you can give the bonus a try, because this is not nearly as many points as the actual problems are. So this is just a few extra points for anyone who feels like they need it or wants to give it a shot. When you do it, do one of the problems, don't do both. Now on the study guide, you're more than welcome to do both for practice. I'm going to give you these answers, but since it's technically bonus, I am not going to solve them, and it's painful to solve some of these, so I don't want to. But I will give you the answers. That way, if you do solve them, you will know if you're correct. And I need to grab my key here because the answers are not nice. Okay, here we go. So, if you do the bonus on number 3, this is the answer I got. And since these aren't X, Y, Z, I am just going to write them out as W equals C equals S equals 43.64. C equals 207.29. And then S equals 42.07. So, as you can see, these numbers are not nice. These are rounded, all of them are, so they are, again, not great numbers. And really, if I'm getting technical here, this is in bushels, so I think this should be whole numbers. So technically, 43.64, that rounds up to 44. 207.29, that rounds, I'll round it down to 207. And then 42.07, that rounds to 42. So when you do this problem, there is a good chance you might get some of these that are off from my numbers. It really depends on how you approach the problem. So it just depends. But when you round to the whole number, these should all match what I got. So something to think about. If you don't want to do number 3, I totally understand. Number 4 has solid answers. They are decimals, but they're nice. So if you do the bonus on number 4, S, the cost of strawberries is $3. The cost of grapes, G, is $1.25. And the cost of M, melon, is $4.75. And these are exact. These were not rounded. So if you do your math right, you will get my answers. There is no negotiating on that. These are the correct answers. So if you want a little extra something to do to practice with, feel free to do those. If you want to do one problem, obviously do number 4 because the math is nicer. Number 3 is not fun to do, but it is doable 100%. All right, that is all for this video. If you have any questions about the study guide, feel free to come see me in person or email me. I'll be happy to help. And if anything, just come talk to me before you take a test. Otherwise, I hope you have an awesome day. Bye.